back to the greatest football podcast currently available on the market. This is Interjections. I am your host for today. My name is Jay. Andrew is indisposed. Joining me today is the cream of the crop, the prime cuts, only the best. We have Irfan and Mikko. I'll start with our European contingent. Mikko, how has the week been for you?
Pretty good. Important things happening. Most of all, the great 3 points against Empoli yesterday, and I think the second important news today is Lautaro is back. I don't remember any other big things happening today. So let's go with these ones.
Oh, he's back, is he?
He is.
Never heard that before.
He is
to
back.
the other side of the pond. We are joined by Irfan from. Where are you from again?
Chicago.
How's things in Chi-Town?
Chi-Town's doing well, man.
Sorry, I can't hear you throw those gunshots. Too many drive-bys. Can you speak up?
Yeah. No, it's a funny time to be in the U.S. It's very odd. I'm not surprised Andrew's not here because he's either mourning because the NFL playoffs have been happening and his the Detroit Lions, who were the number one seed in one of the football conferences, ended up losing their first game. So they're now out of the playoffs and cannot win the Super Bowl. So he might be mourning because of that. It'd be like, the best team in the league losing to like some mid-tier team in like a cup final or something like that, except like the cup final is the equivalent of the Scudetto. So it'd be like Napoli losing something. It'd be like that intense. So he might be in mourning, or he might be celebrating and trying to storm the Capitol because by the end of the day today, we're going to have a new U.S. president officially in power. So it'll be it's an interesting time in the U.S. Times of change.
Look, let's not waste our breath on unimportant matters, all right?
Yes.
How are you handling the TikTok ban? Are you okay? Do you need support?
I have to figure out some new revenue streams because as a full-time TikTok influencer, all of my income has not dried up. But no, apparently it's back. It's back in the U.S. Trump announced yesterday that he was going to reinstate it, and as any like provider who made it available would be protected under the law. So even starting yesterday, which was Sunday here in the U.S., TikTok was back online. I think it was down for like a total of like 8 or 10 hours before it was brought back.
It's really funny to me. I saw the message from TikTok that people had screenshotted from the US, and it says, I'll read it word for word. It says, "Welcome back. Thanks for your patience and support. As a result of President Trump's efforts, TikTok is back in the US." I just found it very interesting that they put Trump front and center and give him all the credit for restoring TikTok. It's like giving Asllani all the credit for yesterday's win. It just seems a bit much.
Oh gosh, why you put me in this position of all positions to compare praise for Asllani to praise for Trump? This is
I'll do you a solid. Here. We'll get the bad out of the way first, and then we can end on a positive note in relation to Asllani. So let's firstly address the Bologna game. I can't even remember when it was. Was it mid last week or something?
Yeah, I think it was Wednesday.
So we had another 2-2 draw against Bologna at San Siro. Yet another game where we dropped points. I felt a bit weakly. I've been to stay with the US theme. I've been echoing a great American's words. That is Charlton Heston when he said, "From my cold dead hands." And that's how I wanted us to hold on to points, not let them go. Or if we let them go, it better be, taken from us through force. But our grasp on points has not been great this season. Let's be real. And this was another example where we let points slip a bit too easily. So obviously, they took the lead through Lautaro Jr., Santiago Castro. We did well to equalize and even take the lead before the half was over. And then the second half happened. Fine, walk me through that second half. What went wrong? Or rather, who went wrong?
I don't know, man. I kind of felt like the entire match was very similar to other Inter matches and the way the first half went. Like the second half, like you asked me about, I think went very similar to the way the first half went. It's just, I, I tried really hard to get upset about the Bologna match, and I really couldn't. I think there's like this expectation that we're going to go in and comfortably win every match, especially with the kind of fixture congestion that we have. And I just don't think it's very realistic or grounded in any sort of objective reality. I mean, Bologna is a good team, and it's hard for us against teams like Bologna who are fairly athletic and fast to retain control of a match, especially with the amount of injuries and rotation that we're being forced to do. And so the result itself didn't bother me. When I watched each of the goals that Bologna scored, they're both deflected goals. Like they were in a way sort of lucky in the sense that I think Summer was playing really well, made a couple of really, really, really good saves. And then both of their goals, again, were deflected. So the result itself doesn't bother me. What does bother me, which I think is the core of your question, is that we seem to, again, have this tendency of not being able to retain a lead once we have it. And I actually think we discussed this in a few episodes before, but I think it's now starting to mean it's a personnel issue for me. I think players end up getting fairly tired. They're just a second or two slower, rotating to the players on the other side that have the ball, or plug in the gaps of potential leakage into the box, etc. Slower to like those 50-50 balls that end up going the other side's way, and then they could end up in a dangerous chance or a goal for the other side. So when you consistently start to give up goals late, I think it's a combination of a bunch of factors, but I think tired legs and just personnel have to start to play into the analysis and the discussion. So Bologna were dangerous throughout the evening, and they created good chances. Like I said, Summer made a bunch of really good saves. Both of their goals were deflected goals, which to me is a sign of bad luck and also a sign of just like being a second late or being a second lazy to get to certain balls. So it didn't bother me that much. What I will say is we were leaking throughout the evening. The defense and the midfield were leaking throughout the evening. And of course, a lot of that is on the rotations and the fact that Asllani was not doing a good enough job in that holding midfield role. But I still go back to the same thing that I always say. I feel like just blanket criticism of Asllani is lazy. It's lazy, and it doesn't account for the fact that he was not responsible for either of the goals in any capacity, right? Like there's no way in hell he was responsible for either of the goals. And yet he seemed to be the one who was getting all of the blame for the result. And again, he didn't play well. I don't think he played well against Bologna at all. And him and I think it was Fratesi later on. I think it was Fratesi, but they both like were losing the ball a lot in the midfield, and they almost ended up gifting Bologna a really, really good chance late in the game, which was really infuriating because that was unacceptable. Like he lost the ball basically right outside of our box by dribbling into, I think, three people. And it's just, it's stuff like that where you look at that and you're like, geez, like that's way too dangerous for any player to be doing on the pitch for us. And yet what's hilarious is that 95% of all players in Serie A do that on a consistent basis. So again, I feel like criticism of him is a little unfair. Criticism of the team is completely fair. We did not play well enough, but it's hard for me to get too animated about it because I think it's a result of fixture congestion and just rotating personnel.
Mikko, let me get your thoughts on the game. Are you concerned with another 2 points dropped from an advantageous position?
Uh, a bit, a bit. I agree with Irfan that mm, that like I wasn't like outrageously like angry after the match. It pissed me off. Taremi couldn't score that goal which Thuram tried to lay up from him. But yeah, maybe I'm mostly disappointed how we played in the second half. The first half, the match started pretty awfully for us. Bologna really like they attacked us, they pressed us, and we were like in real trouble. It was like I don't know. I don't know. Have we played against such opponent this season, apart from maybe Manchester City, like in the early season, that they really like put put us in difficulty, and then they scored the goal. But we kind of recovered pretty fast from that. And I wanna use that stats and usually and now especially when they support my agenda. So I'm gonna I'm gonna use
No,
them again.
don't use evidence. That's boring. Don't use facts. That's not what we do here.
Yeah, yeah, but the fact was that, for example, the XG expected goals for Inter in the first half was 1.6, and in the second half it was 0.13. So that kind of explains the stats explain pretty well how it really went. Of course, the Taremi chance, he missed the ball, so we didn't generate any XG there. But other than that, we had like wait a minute, we had one shot on goal in the second half, and that's pretty incredible, given that we played like what was it? It was half an hour at 2-2 score. So there was like half an hour to try to score, and we were able to generate one shot on goal in that time period. I don't even remember was it like after that, but anyway, point is, um, Bologna was good. I like to give credit to the opponent when they are good, but I think they were honestly they were good. They even won the possession throughout the match, and I don't think we lose the possession stats too often, at least in our home matches. They won the like successful passes. They won that stat as well. They won the total shots. Uh, the XG was like clearly in our favor. So like Irfan kind of referred, they were a bit of a lucky goals, like deflections. That they had XG over the match was like 0.64. So yeah, you could say that okay, they got a bit of lucky. They got two goals out of that XG, but then again, how the goals happened, we let them basically shoot shoot the ball like pretty freely on the edge of our box, or in Holmes' goal, it was inside the box, and that was like uncontested shot. So maybe Sommer would have picked it if it didn't deflect from Bastoni. Probably he would have, but the point is, if you allow that kind of a chance to shoot, it might go in. It might go in, and I think we played poorly in both of those cases when we let them shoot like that. And maybe those kind of chances happen once in a while. Now we got punished out of that pretty heavily. Like I said, I wasn't too angry about the result, but I am to again answer your question. I am maybe a bit concerned how we are able to play against these teams who are like, I think Bologna is a bit better than most of the teams in Serie A, and they showed it. They played well, and we weren't able to pull off a result at home. So it's always like a disappointment if we can't win at home.
In a rare occasion, I agree 100% with what Miko's saying, and my concern was also exactly what you said, that our second half was was really limp-dicked, and especially after conceding the equaliser, that was a full half hour of football to play where we could have searched for a winner, but it looked like there was a distinct lack of hunger in searching for that winning goal. That to me was, by far the most irritating thing. I'm watching this going, guys, do you even want to win? Are you content with a 2-2 draw? Where's this this hunger, this drive to try and grab that 3-2, And that was sorely lacking, not just visibly, but as you mentioned, very accurately reflected by the stats, which were a big indictment on our approach to the second half. And that's something we've seen with Inzaghi from time to time. But let me ask you this, Mikko. You said Bologna is better than most of the teams in Serie A, and I guess, that is objectively true, given that they're seventh, and, being seventh place means you're better than 13 other teams. So, yeah, they are better than most teams in the league. But do you feel that there is a bit of an inability in the team to kind of overcome hurdles of a certain size? We're yet to beat Juve, Napoli, Milan, despite 4 games against these guys. Yes, we flogged Lazio and Atalanta, but Bologna is in amongst the top handful of teams, and I don't think we've been particularly convincing against, was it Roma? I can't remember, but overall, against some of the bigger teams, we're not as convincing as we were last season. And there's a tendency for this current team to be a bit of a flat track bully, beat the small teams, but then I guess fail to impress against some of the larger opponents who offer a bit of a harder challenge. Why is this?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I can see the trend. Like we beat Lazio. That was the only one we beat Atlanta as well early season. So there's two nice wins. But I don't know, maybe they became like a blowouts out of certain individual plays which became goals, and it kind of go from there. But yeah, we struggled quite a bit against these so-called better sides, and it might be that's the I think that will be the deciding factor. Okay, maybe that's always the deciding factor, but more than ever this season, when Napoli is doing pretty great, we can't now in the second part of the championship. We can't do that anymore. We need to be better in these games. I don't know if Bologna belongs to like absolute top of Serie A, but at least in this game they were like, to me they were like super good in general, even if they didn't generate a lot of HG and blah blah blah, but they really put us in a difficulty, especially at start.
But
But yeah,
what I oh, sorry, go
go
ahead,
on,
Nico.
go on.
Well, I was gonna say what I find interesting about this is, and if you guys have a tool like this, please let me know. But I cannot find any place online that allows me to like very easily say, hey, we're 21 match days in to this season. What were our stats and what were our standings and results 21 matches into last season? I can't find any place online that lets me kind of go back in time and see where we were at the same part of last year. But I kind of think it's interesting. In my view, my gut says that we're doing just as good or about the same as we were doing last year. I think the difference is that Napoli is just doing a lot better than I think any of our competitors were doing last year. And that situation makes me a little bit nervous, but I have to figure out a good way to kind of check that to see if that's just a feeling or it's facts, because, we still have facts here and not alternative facts that we like to talk about. So once I figure that out, I'll talk about that. But the thing that we talked about a little bit with Frattesi and this team a few weeks ago gave us a chance in that Bologna match to kind of test it, right? Like that was a great example of a match where we were drawn with plenty of time left in the match, right? So we needed a goal. It was 2-2, and like you guys said, we had about 30 minutes to come up with a winner at home, right? It was a perfect match for someone like Frattesi to come in and like really make an influence. And so what happened in this match, right? In the 70th minute, Inzaghi pulls a triple substitution. He takes out Asllani and puts in Frattesi. He takes out DeMarco and puts in Augusto, and he takes out Darmian and puts in Pavard. All, other than maybe DeMarco, all of them are like positive changes for the attacking game. And what ends up, and then 4 minutes later, he pulls Martinez and puts in taremi. We talked about the taremi kind of mischance, but I didn't. This was the kind of perfect match where someone like Frattesi should have come in and been a total nuisance, right? And I'm not saying he didn't do well. I'm not blaming him for the loss, because again, we can have complex thoughts that don't just single out one player and blame them for everything. But what I found interesting was, this was the sort of match that he should have been able to make a good positive influence in on and come up with a goal. And maybe last season he might have come up with the winning goal, or maybe even earlier this season he might have come up with the winning goal. But the whole team, even after the subs, was really kind of impotent. Like, we had the Taremi chance, we had that Dumfries chance, but otherwise nothing else was really happening. And so this was the sort of match where, like, I look at the personnel that we have and I'm like, okay, well, we need a goal. Who do we bring off the bench? And there's really nothing there. There's no one to bring onto this team. None of the backup forwards are inspiring enough to really come up with a goal late. Nothing in the midfield is inspiring unless Frattesi does something, which in this case he didn't. And then the last sub we made was Buchanan. I mean, do we really think bringing in Buchanan late was going to somehow result in, us unlocking Bologna and finding an equalizer or finding a winner? And it didn't. So this is one of the frustrations I think I have with this team that we've talked about, which is, if we need a goal late, I mean, there's really not much that we have to bring on to do anything, like a change of pace, a tricky player, some pace. There's nothing we bring on. Frattesi's the closest thing. And again, in this last match, he was unable to kind of do that part.
This is a great segue into the topic of recruitment and squad building and things like this. And I know probably last week and the week before and the week before that and the week before that, I was harping on about this team's puzzling choices in resource allocation, shall we say. I guess the example I keep going to is Milan, as you might expect, and how they spent 20 million on Pulisic and Reinders respectively. And these guys are delivering them so much value for the money spent compared to 20 million that we've spent on Thomas Palacios and Joseph Martinez, who have offered us quite literally zero value on the pitch, zero contribution on the pitch. Not only is that, in my opinion, very eyebrow raising, because I think our financial situation is such where every dollar needs to work for us. Every dollar needs to be squeezed. Squeeze every penny, as Homer Simpson once said before ingesting a penny into his bloodstream. And we've seen that with Mkhitaryan and Acerbi. These guys were free and old, but they came in and, we were expecting X amount, but they gave us 3X, you know what I mean? So, maybe they skewed our expectations a little bit, but to spend 20 million and get literally zero impact on the pitch, I think is a little bit unforgivable. I know there's always the argument that they'll come good and their value will come later, but I think it's a little bit, it's not short-sighted. It's the opposite of short-sighted. It's looking too far ahead because we need to focus on the present. What I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on, guys, was this idea of, or my concern is that we're not capitalizing on this relative power gap at the top. Let me explain that, because there shouldn't be a power gap because it should be filled by us. You can argue it is filled by us in that we're the reigning champions, obviously, having won the Scudetto last season in dominant fashion. However, how many times in the last, since like the 90s, how many times has there been, aside from, when we went into banter and Milan went to banter, there's not been a time when the traditional big three have been, or two out of the big three have been non-factors. Juve are going through a massive transition period. Milan are going through a transition period of their own, and we're the only one out of the traditional big three with stability, with the same coach, the same core squad, the same playing style of three at the back for the better part of 6 years. And we've also got more or less the same DNA of management, going from Spalletti and Marotta and so on, and obviously now with Oak Tree, but Marotta, Zanetti, Auxilio, Dario Bachin, these guys are all still there. You get my point. There's continuity there, and I feel like you don't often get this opportunity where the big three or the bigger teams in the league, like Milan and Juve, namely, are giving us so much space to dominate the top, to dominate the league, right? And I just, one of my biggest regrets is that I don't think we're doing enough to really capitalize on that. I don't think this management really understands that. Suning, I felt understood that a little bit better, but were just financially incapable of taking advantage of that. Whereas I feel this management, Oak Tree, are just, I'm telling you, man, these fucking Americans don't understand culture. You've got these lunatic presidents like Zamparini and De Laurentiis and and Moratti and Berlusconi, and you got this bullshit about Lotito sacking the Lazio Eagle bearer because he got a penis implant and was posting it on social media and all this kind of stuff. This is the insanity of Italian football, and I don't think these fucking Americans really understand the dynamic of Italian football, the politics of Italian football, and the way power works in Italian football. And as mentioned, the way I see it, not only are the top two big teams, Milan and Juve, historically kind of out of the picture, even the fourth team, traditionally, Roma, is completely out of the picture. So the only big team that is there right now is Inter. You've got Napoli, but they were in Serie B 10 years ago, or 15 years ago. You've got Atalanta, but Atalanta were also in Serie B 10 years ago. These are in name big teams, or like they have some degree of history, but these are not the traditionally entrenched big teams where their fans have expectations. And I constantly say this, but I'm so glad that I'm not a Napoli fan, because I would be furious right now watching Napoli take an axe to their own legs and mutilate their fantastic Scudetto winning side with Spalletti and Osimhen and Kim and Kvara, and just absolutely mutilate it. But they can kind of get away with it because their fans are still singing about the Scudetto from 2 years ago, and they're still singing about Maradona's Scudetti from 1988. You know what I mean? Like, the expectations don't work the same. Here at Inter, there's an expectation to win, and Oak Tree don't understand that assignment. Oak Tree don't understand that there's a power vacuum here. We need to seize control of that, take advantage of that. And yes, even if we have to move from loss to break even to profit a bit slower, I think that's a worthwhile trade-off in spending a bit more now to ensure that we are the dominant team in this league right now and the foreseeable future. And I won't go back to this hill and die on it again, but had we played our cards right, I think we should have won every league since the first Conte Scudetto. I mean, we won 2 out of 4, which is obviously not bad, but I think feasibly we could have won all 4 had we invested the right amounts at the right times. But like I said, I'm just really concerned that this management is the worst offender so far in terms of failing to grasp the situation we're in, or failing to give it the importance it needs. There's a power gap. If we spend a little bit now, we can ensure that we stay certain levels above Juventus and Milan. But by blowing what little money we have on useless players who are contributing jack shit, and who are therefore, just like Irfan said, not giving Inzaghi the tools to close down games and to win games, and thereby putting us in serious competition with Napoli for the title, actively damaging us. Mikko, you mentioned that, yes, we failed to beat some big teams, and now in the second half of the season we need to be better. That's easier said than done, man. We got to travel to Napoli. We got to travel to Juventus. We got to play away to Milan. It's not going to get easier. We also have about at least 5 to maybe even 10, hopefully, more games to play with the Champions League and Coppa Italia as well. So throw in this fixture congestion and the increasingly more difficult level of games that we have to play, it's not looking good for me. And it gets really annoying when you see the market rumors are that Inter are, buying some no name called Thomas Perez, who is valued at 1 million or like 400,000 according to transfermarket, and we're paying 7 million for him. What the fuck is that going to help us in this title race right now? Sorry, that was a massive rant, but let me get your thoughts on this, Mikko. Should we are we failing to realize the importance of this power balance right now?
All right. Well, as you put it that way, yeah, surely I guess we are. The earlier years, like you mentioned, when the Changs were in power, it was a bit of a tough situation for the management because they had to they had to manage it the financial side, that we had to like cut costs, and we couldn't make up big investments, or they had to be sales if we wanted to buy, and so on. uh, Now with the oak tree, it feels it might be a bit different in a sense that we might be able to invest, but mostly for the future and not for the current situation, which to me it seems that there's like a different budget. Like we can spend on Palacios, we will spend on this Perez, maybe this, who was this Croatian guy, we are now linked to this midfielder,
Sucic.
Sucic. He's like 21 or something,
Yeah.
and he would be coming next summer, and it's rumored the price is like 50 million or something, so not insignificant price by any means for Inter, or like a current Inter. So it feels that there's a budget for transfers, but not for the current squad. Like there's like a total cost the current squad should be, like, should what's the maximum we can spend on the current squad, the salaries and the transfer fee amortizations. And I believe that Oak Tree would like to get that number even lower, but at least not increase it, like having a meaningful with a meaningful number. So I think last summer the case was that management maybe thought that, okay, this is a good enough team to continue. We add Taremi, we add Zielinski, and that's basically it. We add these players at an acceptable cost. They were like free transfers. Salaries are if not like super big, they are like decent salaries at least. But the costs weren't like big, and management thought that, okay, this is it, and then we spent the rest on the future. But now it seems that these players we added, they are not adding enough, and the depth in my books is might not be enough. But we don't know that, because if we win the Scudetto, then the depth was enough. So it's to me, the times are interesting. The games ahead, they are like super tense. Like, at least beforehand, they are like, it's really exciting time to be an Inter fan in my view. Maybe you guys are like more scared, but I'm at least like super excited, in a sense that the games we are going to play, they are like, they mean a ton, and it's like a real pressure moment for Inter to play these games. Like, we are adding the Champions League matches on the mix as well. So I'm pretty positive, but at the same time, I acknowledge that it's, if we don't win the Scudetto, it's like a missed chance there. And yeah, we could have done more last summer to improve like the immediate situation, but there was this decision not to do it. Maybe I don't know, maybe it was we couldn't get rid of Korea, Arnautovic. We don't know the like true facts behind the behavior, because we were linked with Gudmundsson, and it
Yeah.
feels that we could have added him, but there was probably like a decision, okay, we can't add this guy if we don't get other guys out of the way first, and we couldn't do that. So here we are. But that's
Yeah,
just guesswork. But yeah, go on,
yeah.
Irfan.
No, I think that's right, Miko. And Jay has a point that it comes down to where we are, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if we had some sort of stable ownership, and I know, Jay, you're talking about the American side of this, and I think that's completely fair. Their view of Serie A, their view of the team, their view of the business side of this is very different than I think Suning's view was. And the reality is that when Suning did take over, I think they did have a long-term plan, and they made a lot of long-term investments and heavy investments to kind of modernize the club. And I think that was all very admirable. But really, like the last 2 years of their ownership, the kind of decline in our ability to long-term plan and to long-term essentially take over this league was already in process, right? I mean, the model worked because we were making those strategic investments in free agents and, maybe getting one good quality player and then through some deferred sort of, financing arrangement. Um, and it was working enough to like keep us competitive. But even within their last 2 years, you saw like a decline in our ability to really take over. Of the four kind of seasons you're talking about where we ended up winning two Scudetto, I think we all agree that we probably should have won another one, which was that Milan one that we got kind of robbed on. But the Napoli one, honestly, I think that one was a tough one because Napoli just kind of ran away with it, and we had a lot of cell phones and probably could have benefited from a little bit more squad depth. But that one would have been, I think, a little bit harder to convince that we should have won that. But there is this like strategic shift in the way we're viewing these market windows, the way we're viewing Inter as a business, and it's not surprising to me that we're seeing the results of some of that. The good news is, though, that we're still in a very competitive position. We're still in a very competitive league. I still think a lot of this has to do more with just fixture congestion and unfortunate injuries than it does a decline. With that said, I really do wish that, like you said, instead of deploying our limited finances in the manner in which we did, if we would have picked up, one midfielder who could serve a really good kind of defensive role, even if that's all that they did, right? Even if they just came on and they were essentially used to hold a lead and to kind of destroy the other team's build up in the midfield, that would have been a great asset for us to have in matches where we need to retain whatever the score is. The other place I wish we had made some investment was some sort of more creative attacking player. Now, whether that's in the midfield or as a winger or as a forward, somebody who either had some pace or some dribbling ability and the ability to like have a little bit of vision to set up these forwards. Like I don't think Taremi and Arnautovic are necessarily totally miserable. I think if they had somebody who could set them up really well, I think they'll be able to finish some chances. So if we had somebody who could beat their guy with pace or with some sort of dribbling ability and lay it off for some of the midfielders like Frattesi or one of our forwards, I think that would have been a huge purchase for us. Honestly, someone like Samardzic that we were trying to get would have been a good purchase for us. But Frattesi, I think he doesn't have that skill set. I mean, I think he has the skill set of running into the box and scoring goals and finding himself in good positions to receive the ball. But I don't feel like he particularly excels in having some sort of vision to kind of pull some strings to create a chance out of nothing for another player. I just don't think he has that. Okay, going back to one thing I remember I was saying about where we were last year. So this, I think, is interesting. I did my own research, and I found out that you really should not trust anything in the vaccines that these pharmaceutical. No, I'm just kidding. I looked at the standings from last year. So 20 matches into last year, Inter was in first place. We had played 20 matches and we had 16 wins, 3 draws, and 1 loss, which is a pretty impressive record. So we had 16 wins out of 20. And this year, sitting at 20, we have 14 wins. We still only have the 1 loss. So basically, we have 2 more draws than we did last year. So we were able to convert 2 draws to wins last year that we weren't able to do this year. So we were in first place last year with 51 points, and Juve had 49 points. And then there was already a drop off at that point because then the next team was Milan with 42. So 51, 49, and 42. This year, after 20 matches, we have 47 points. So yeah, 4 points kind of off the pace we were last year. But what's different is that Napoli this year, I mean, through 21 matches at least, they have 50 points. So they would have been essentially at 47 points also. So I think this is, again, we're very similar to the way we were last year, probably -4 at this point of the stage than we were last year. But unfortunately, we don't have, our greatest competitor sitting at, 49 points this time. They're sitting at, 50. So that's one of the big sort of differences that's keeping us close. And then again, there's a drop after that. It gets to Atalanta and then Lazio. So I think we're doing okay. I think the injuries to Hakan, I think, and Mkhitaryan really hurt us, but we're still in it.
Before we move on to to touching up on the Empoli game and looking ahead, what are your thoughts on the missed opportunity Mikko and I referred to? Again, this what feels like a bit of a power vacuum at the top, and maybe we're not working hard enough to really take a stranglehold of that and ensure our dominance. I feel like that's what a ruthless Italian ownership would realize and would do. Like an Agnelli family really did that. You know what I mean? They kind of almost sucked the life out of the rest of the league by monopolizing all the talents and buying their competitors' biggest stars like Pjanic from Roma and Higuain from Napoli and so on, and not expecting us to do that, obviously. But again, considering how far ahead we were last season, even just 40 million spent across 2 decent players rather than a fucking backup keeper, you know what I mean, and some youth in the play, it just feels like a better use of our money to ensure or to make a greater attempt at securing our top place. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point. It's interesting, though. I feel like the way Juventus dominated this league for easily a decade, I don't know if you're going to see that sort of domination anymore in any of the leagues, right? I mean, even Bayern, you can see in Germany kind of falling off. Right now, I think in Spain, Atletico are sitting at top of the table with Real Madrid right behind them, and then there's a little bit of a drop before you get to Barcelona. And then the EPL has been surprisingly, there's a lot of parity there, especially this year with Man City, being trash. But what I think is interesting is that in Serie A, we've now had, 3 different Scudetto winners basically in the last 3 years. And, that doesn't even include Juventus or Atalanta or some of the other teams that have been consistently sort of top 4 teams. But I agree. It would have been great to see us really kind of put our foot down and dominate this league for 10 years. I think we had all the ability to do that. Honestly, starting with Conte. I think we had the ability to do that starting with Conte, and then we had to, go through this ridiculous kind of sale of Lukaku and replace him with almost nothing, pocketing all the money that we made. And it's a great, I guess I'm less concerned about what could have been, because I understand that unlike Juventus, where you had the same ownership in place, rich ownership, financially solvent ownership, I felt like the warnings were already there from Suning very early on when this whole thing started. And so it's definitely a huge opportunity cost because of what happened with Suning. But I feel like the writing was always on the wall. So I just have a little bit less regret. It was almost like, just savor the moment, because this team, given Suning's financial situation, was never going to be able to really lean in and dominate this league. But there's definitely a power vacuum. I mean, none of the teams that we've been competing against in Serie A the last few years, I think, have been worth anything other than that magical kind of Napoli ride that they had.
Good points. Let's move on and quickly review the Empoli game. I think we spent a lot of time on the transfer stuff, which is nice to get out of the way. This is your time to shine again, Irfan. Your boy had a positive performance. I personally look, I hate to be that guy. I don't think it was like some kind of all-round stellar performance. I think the assist kind of made it look a bit better than it really was, and I think a lot of the kind of I'm seeing stats like X amount of touches, X amount of passes, X amount passing completion rate, all this kind of stuff kind of floating around. And again, impressive on paper, but to the eye test, like somewhere between a 6.5 and a 7 out of 10. Like 6.5 for the way he played just in general, and then I guess plus 0.5 for the assist. So that's my take, but I think you'll probably be a bit more generous in your praise. So let's hear it. How did you find Asllani's performance against Empoli? His masterful dictatorship of the midfield.
I think he played really well, and I think again, like we were talking about putting Inter Scudetto and transfer things in context. I think you got to put this in context. He's had a rough go. I mean, he's gotten blamed for the Milan match, and he didn't play well in that Milan match. He took a lot of blame, I think, a little bit unfairly on the Bologna match, though, again, I admit he didn't play particularly well in the Bologna match. But this match, he played really well. I mean, I think it's not just the assist off the corner, but he even in the first half, he was responsible for essentially two of our best sort of attacking moves. I'm forgetting one of them, but the other one I completely remember, which was he kind of dropped the ball in over the top for Lautaro, and Lautaro did a good job of kind of muscling out his defender, which Lautaro almost never does, but he did a good job of doing it in this case. And he took a shot and it kind of bounced off the post. And I can't remember; it might have been saved before it bounced off the post. But that came from an Asllani chance. And then there's a couple of other plays in the first half and in the second half where he kind of played that critical kind of Modric style, hockey assist pass, which is like the pass before that unlocks the person.
How dare you
end up
utter the
making
name? How dare you utter Luka Modric's name in the same sentence as
I said
Cristiano
Modric
Ronaldo?
style. Modric style.
Modric-esque.
Modric-esque. The Diet Coke of Modric. Let's put it that way. The margarine of Modric. But no, I thought he played well. I don't think we were leaking in the midfield. I thought he was doing a good job of being more on the front foot, like more forward passes than just that typical kind of, nonchalant or almost lazy slow pass back or to the side. I think he was being a little more direct. The one thing, and again, I think people who don't really observe him and are focused on him other than on the negative didn't see it. But towards the end of the first half, he was in the box a lot on the attacking phase, which is really unlike him. Like you could tell he was very motivated to like go out, and he had a couple of good shots that ended up getting deflected as well. So I thought he played well. Again, not world class, not Hakan level by any stretch of the imagination, but for a 22-year-old backup midfielder, I thought he played really well. And one of the comments I made last week was that it's hard, I think, for us to rely on Asllani in matches against, top tier teams like a Bologna, top 7 teams, like a Bologna, Atalanta, Napoli, Milan, Juve. It's tough for us to rely on him because, again, he isn't
Milan
as
are not in
good.
the top 7. Thanks very much.
Oh, yeah, they're not. But for a match like this, against the rest of the Italian league teams or some of the other Champions League teams, which are very important matches, and you need somebody who can, give your players a break or give, an injured star some time. He's totally fine in those roles. And he was totally fine in the role yesterday. And I think he played a good part in getting us the win.
Look, I'm still not over that comment. The fucking nerve of this guy to utter the name of Modric. Why don't you say Xavi-esque? Why don't you say Pirlo-esque? Huh? But before I hand it over to Mika with a very special assignment, a very particular assignment, speaking of motivated, I want your thoughts on one more player, and that was my man, Big D, Big Double D's, Denzel Dumfries. He looked like a man on a mission yesterday. It looked like he was destined to score right from the get-go. He was aggressive. And yeah, let me know what you thought of his performance.
Oh, yeah, love him. He's been playing incredible. He's been playing so well, and I don't know if it's all for the contract, like the extension that he signed, or whatever it is. But man, he's come across. He finds himself in dangerous positions. He's one of our few players that I feel like is not scared to take on whoever's defending him. Like he's not afraid of that one-on-one challenge, regardless of who's there. That mentality, I think, is awesome because sometimes, because of the way we play, I feel like we're so comfortable passing around people that we don't bother to try to take them on. Him and thuram are probably the two players that I see who are consistently not afraid to just take on whatever's in front of them. And I think that that's a great move, and it's a testament to Dumfries. He's been playing really well. He finds himself in great positions. He's playing bold. He's not afraid. He's aggressive, and he's more dynamic. Like it's not just let's get to the byline and drop in a corner across anymore. Like I'm seeing more diagonal runs. I'm seeing him, run into the box a lot more. He's changing up even the types of crosses he does. But no, he's on peak form, and he's playing really well. So lots of credit to him.
Okay, so Miko, I've got two players that I want you to speak on in particular, and obviously you can touch on anyone else you like as well. But the two guys I'm keen to get your thoughts on are number one, Pavard, and number two, Lautaro. Are they back?
Yeah, Pavard first. I think he hasn't played too much. This was the first start for him, right? And I don't know. I think he's not there yet. I feel that he's still picking it up, and I think it's understandable. He was out like several weeks. Was it like 2 months or what was it? But he was out for a long time, so I kind of understand it. He's not like at super form yet, but doing decently. It's not an issue, I feel. As for Lautaro, as I mentioned, like as the first comment, I think he's back. He's back now. He's scoring goals, and he's pretty comfortable with the ball. There's still these cases when he gets the ball and he tries something and just completely loses it because he's like too slow. But I think it's been part of his game always. I don't know if he's a bit slower in general than before, and that's why he maybe doesn't succeed in those plays as often. I don't know, but I think he's been playing really well in these past two games against Bologna and now this game, and he scored two nice goals as well. He's involved. He creates chances or passes pretty well, makes the moves and so on. I think I think we need this type of Lautaro a lot, and I've been saying that it hasn't been an issue that he's not there, he's not scoring. Now he's been scoring, and well, others a bit too, but he's been scoring there are some important goals now to, well, leading goals or at the time game winning goals against Bologna and now against Empoli. So I think he's catching it up now, and he's like there. He's back. I wanna quickly comment on Taremi because
I
he
prefer you
is.
didn't.
Yeah, me too. But we need to we need to talk about this. Like I've been like kind of defending him lately, that he's been involved and so on. But I don't know. This is just like this was like a terrible match by him. He's when he's being like fouled or like there's a minor contact, he's always down. Never wins any challenge, and it feels he's quite slow and I don't know. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good with him. Like can he ever catch it up during this season? Because we really need it. We really need him to be like a useful player for us. Yes, he is. Well, not always, but he is like part of the game and he's involved. But it feels that
I was going to say he's
it,
functional in that he offers some guarantees. He'll receive a pass and pass it on, but
yeah,
like everything else
but
seems to be a bit shit, right?
we need more. We need more. That's like the base level he's providing, but we need more. If not the goals, but we need more like involvement to create something. And he's just like a. It's not enough, and I'm disappointed he's been this bad because I expected more from him, a lot more from Taremi than what we've seen. Even if not the goals, of course the goals would have been nice to get more, especially now that we're getting this tough schedule ahead of us. We need all the goals because I feel that we won't be scoring as much as we done in the first part of the season. Well, maybe Lautaro will like patch it up with his goals, hopefully. But we need goals from the bench, and I'm not expecting anything from Arnautovic anymore. It was a nice assist yesterday, but Taremi he needs to be more in the scoring phase and like creating something. He needs to provide more.
Speaking of Taremi, it's likely he'll play again midweek. We're playing at Sparta Praha in the Champions League on Wednesday night. What are you expecting to see for this lineup? I mean, we're playing Lecce after that on the Sunday when we return to Italy, and obviously we won't preview that match just yet. But Lecce are currently 16th. They have the ignominious record of having the second worst defense in the league with 36 goals conceded. Only Verona is worse. But Lecce have the lowest amount of goals scored with just 15 goals in 21 games. So, having said that, it is an away game, but anticipating some degree of rotation given the fixture congestion and just the stature of opponent that we're playing. What are you expecting for the midweek champions game? Do you think we'll start our best lineup? Will Thuram return to the starting lineup, or do you think Taremi will get another run out? What are you wanting to? What are you expecting to see, and what are you wanting to see? It might be different.
Yeah, I
Please,
don't know.
Irfan, go on.
Yeah, I don't know. I think get and again, this whole new Champions League format makes the analysis a little bit harder. But I think we really do need a good result against this Sparta match. So unfortunately, though, I feel like given where we are in the league and we need to keep pace with Napoli, I think it kind of ties Inzaghi's hands a little bit, as do the injuries. So I think we'll see a little bit of rotation, but I don't think we're going to see too much rotation. I'm glad Mkhitaryan's back now, or he played at least, and so I have a feeling that he'll start the match against. He'll start the midweek match in the Champions League. I do expect to see Thuram starting as well, and Lautaro, or maybe it'll be Thuram and maybe Lautaro will be rested until later in the match. I don't know. It's a good question because I can't predict it because I don't know. I don't feel like even the Lecce match is necessarily a given. Like nothing's given in Serie A, and I feel like so far this season we've seen Inzaghi really hesitate to rotate that much in Serie A unless his hand is forced. So I do want to see Thuram, but I think we'll see a pretty strong lineup against Sparta. I don't think we're going to see too much rotation other than what's being forced by injuries.
Yeah, yeah, I think. Well, yeah, I agree that I want to see like a full lineup, but I really can't predict is that the case because Inzaghi has been rotating every time in Champions League, I believe. But because this is like the one of the most important matches now, we really need to win this one. Okay, technically we don't because we can win the Monaco and that should be fine. But and hopefully Inzaghi doesn't think that way. I want us to like really smash this match. We need goals for the goal difference. We need the points, and I feel that maybe this Taremi starting against Empoli, Lautaro taken out at the later stages. Maybe that points out to the case that Lautaro and Thuram will start. Di Marco was taken out. Bastoni at least will play. He didn't play a lot yesterday. Augusto played the full 90 minutes. Yeah. Mm, I really hope the full lineup. I want to I want to take this match so goals seriously, in a sense that we need to score goals. And
If it makes a difference, apparently, just as we speak, Lecce have agreed to sell their star player to Manchester United. Patrick Dorgu, their left back, is apparently joining United for 40 million. So that might make Lecce an even easier proposition for us, which means maybe we can afford to invest more in the Champions League game. I just want to say, and this is, I guess not news because we lost against Leverkusen in our dismal performance, but I think our Champions League form has been wildly inflated this season. We didn't concede any goals and all this shit. Like, we didn't score any either, you know what I mean? So, point I'm trying to make is, yeah, I agree. We need a statement win. We need to really secure our top 8 position. It will be an absolute disaster for us to finish outside of the top 8 because of those 2 extra games, or 1 extra game, is it?
it's two. It's a knockout, like a
Yeah,
playoff knockouts, 2 games.
exactly. So we literally have nowhere for those 2 extra games to be played in our immensely congested calendar for the remainder of the season. Throw in the fucking Club World Cup as well. I know that's months and months away, but you have to take it into account at this stage. So we cannot afford those 2 extra games. We don't have the time for it. We don't have the players for it. We don't have the focus for it. So absolutely imperative that we finish in the top 8. And I don't know if a win against Monaco alone suffices, but Monaco are a significantly harder opponent than Sparta Praha anyway, even if the Monaco game is at home and this one is away. So let's not be dickheads and, flog this one off and be like, no, it's okay, we'll win against Monaco kind of thing. This is giving me shades to that fucking Sociedad game where Inzaghi put out his B team and prioritized like the Copa. You guys remember that last season? When, playing against or getting a favorable result against Sociedad could have easily meant us topping the group and thereby getting an easier opponent in the round of 16. And, obviously we all know how that went. We played a shit team against Sociedad, put in a shit performance, got a shit 0-0 draw, and ended up getting a harder opponent in the round of 16 and got promptly knocked out by them. So these kind of small choices are a lot bigger than they seem. And so, yes, I want to see us take this game incredibly seriously. We need, I think, 6 points from the remaining Champions League games. If not, at worst 4. 2 would be a disaster, and obviously less than 2 would be a fucking crazy Inter type thing. But let's not even contemplate that. Do you want to see, or is there anyone in particular that you're looking to see? Like anyone hankering for a dissect start or anything like that, or God forbid, fucking Buchanan? No nonsense, right? We just want the starting lineup, the regular boys against Sparta Praha.
Well, it's going to be. I think it's going to be Asllani, right? Because
Unfortunately,
we don't have Çalhanoğlu. Zielinski, I don't know.
So we assessed that Asllani is fine for Venezia and for Empoli, but Bologna is where we draw the line. Where does Sparta Praha fall in that scale?
Maybe we see that on Wednesday. Hard to say before.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
But yeah, I think midfield is a bit of mystery. Mkhitaryan, I think he will be there for sure. Barella has played now 290 minutes. So is there like a chance we're gonna see the golden boys, Asllani and Frattesi, like a disaster waiting to happen?
Yeah, that never works. That's the real black hole in midfield. If you put those two together, I don't think that's ever worked. So hopefully that's not going to be the case.
Not there.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
All right, give me some predictions, Mikko. What are you expecting?
Yeah, I'm hoping. Well, let's go with the modest prediction of 2-0 win by us. Not a convincing, but we got the 3 points.
With goals from?
Let's go with thuram and then Lautaro. Lautaro, he's back, so he is back.
Oh, fine.
I'm gonna go. Man, I'm gonna go 2-0 as well, but I'm gonna give goals to.
Don't you dare fucking say it.
No, I already. Once I dropped that Modric thing in there, I can't. I can't go there again now. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with goals from DeMarco and oh man, Fertesi.
Ooh, nice pick. I thought you were gonna say Dumfries, and on Dumfries, did you know he has more Serie A goals in less minutes than Rafael Leao this season?
I did see that, and he's got 2 in a row now, right? 2 goals in a row, 2 matches in a row. So he's on the hot
Something like
streak.
that. So I'm going to back my boy to continue the hot streak. Dumfries gets a goal for us. 2-1 to Sparta. No, I'm kidding. I think it'll be 2-1 for us. I think it'll be a disgusting game. I think Lautaro and Dumfries will take the goals. And I think they'll score late to make it really nervy for us, but we'll hold on for a 2-1 away win and 3 valuable points. Shall we?
Speaking
Any
of
comments before we wrap up?
yeah, speaking of nervy, how did you feel about when Sebastiano Esposito scored that goal?
Oh yeah, dude, we should bring him back. He the kind of finish and kind of poise and strength he showed in that, like he's matured quite a bit since he left us, and that was a while back, and he was very young. But man, I wouldn't mind seeing him come back to us.
Agreed. Just the sense of mind to take that ball down, to kind of to advance in that position and kind of take the ball past the defender and make space was good shit. I think the biggest question around Esposito was, well, obviously part of his quality, but also just his head. He went to, was it Basel in the Swiss league, and then he was at Sampdoria, and I think both places he went, there were issues with the coach, and he was arguing with the manager and all this kind of shit, and that's like exactly what we don't need from a 21-year-old who has achieved practically nothing in his career. So maybe he's grown up a bit. I think he actually has more Serie A goals than Lautaro this season, so he's on the right track. And as mentioned, when I saw the goal, my first thought was, fuck, this is better than anything Taremi has done this season. Probably done more than Taremi, Correa, and Arnautovic combined this entire season. So
Absolutely.
there's some contracts expiring, I believe, soon, Arnautovic and Correa. Maybe there's room for Esposito. And if we can fuck Taremi off, or if Taremi can fall down the pecking order a little bit, then maybe there is legitimately room for him, because I think he's, we've seen from Esposito in the past, he's scored free kicks and stuff. He's scored long distance goals with both feet. There's a technical player there, and he's not the most fast or the best dribbler, but at least there's some excitement in the technicality and finesse that he offers, right? This is not just some lumbering forward whose strongest asset is his fucking tracking back and defending, his closing down of opponents. I'm sick of forwards whose best attribute is their defense. Like, fuck off.
Yeah, they can't score. Their best attributes are all the stuff other than scoring goals, which is admirable. But sometimes you need a goal, But no, and the other thing about Esposito is that he can actually still improve. I mean, he's the kind of player with his age and his trajectory that he can still get even better. So yeah, I wouldn't mind taking a chance on him, and bring back my boy Pinamonti too. Let's get the band back together.
Let's not start. Let's not start.
Let's
not
keep
get crazy.
Yeah, let's keep him. But the youngest brother of Esposito's, he's speaking of Esposito's, is that
Pio Esposito?
Yeah, Francesco Pio. He scored 2 goals yesterday. He's the top scorer of Serie B right now.
I can see it right now. Inter 2028, 2 up the front, the Esposito brothers. It would be fucking glorious.
Yes. But I think we need to be patient with him. But I think there's a chance we could bring him to the Club World Cup on summer after the season because of the special rules with the transfers. So we can bring guys ahead of the usual transfer window. So
we no longer own Sebastiano, right? We sold him outright.
And we own him, but Empoli has the option, so they probably will use it because it's only 5 million.
Fuck.
So it's a bit of a bummer.
half Arnautovic.
Yeah,
5 million, aka what we paid Taremi gross in 1 year.
And there's some small resale percentage. So if we want to get him back, I feel that we can find a deal with Empoli, which is not like we don't have to pay like 20 million.
Or we just tell him to reject the contract and make it impossible for them to sign him.
Yeah, I don't think it works like that, but I think I feel that if we want to get him back, we can make it happen. So let's see in the summer what's the situation. I have a bit of a fear in terms of if I want to see him back, is that the management made the decision like last summer that okay, this guy's like going if he play like the option indicates that okay, if he plays well, the loaning club will buy him and he's there, and like we can't get him back. So maybe there was a decision that okay, we won't continue with Sebastiano anymore because I don't know, maybe all the problems in the loan deals, but I don't think there were problems in Bari and Sampdoria stint. So it's like 2 years now. He hasn't had like a big problems in his current club. So like I don't know. It looks good now what he's doing, but on the other hand, it's only Empoli. Like it's a bit different environment. At Inter, it would be like he wouldn't be playing that much, and the pressure is like it's a bit different world if you play for Empoli or Inter. But yeah, it's nice to see that he is doing what he's doing, but would be nice to see him at Inter but yeah.
He seems to be maturing for sure. I mean, in his game and also his personality, he hasn't been associated with sort of that dickhead behavior in a while, which I think is nice. Even the other Esposito brother, I was just looking up his stats in Serie B, and he's got 5 goals and 8 assists from the center midfield, center defensive midfield role. So 8 assists in 21 matches is pretty good. So maybe we get all of them back.
Yeah. Well, maybe not the midfielder. Maybe he's like past it already, the oldest one. But yeah, I remember seeing a Dumfries comment after the match that it was nice to see, or like a greet with Esposito. They changed the shirts and everything. He commented that Sebastiano was good on the preseason and so on. So I didn't even remember that Sebastiano took like a part of our preseason, but yeah, that was the case, and maybe he impressed the team there or something. But yeah, interesting to see what's going to happen with him.
All right. Well, we've gone way over time without that anchor from Detroit weighing us down. Let's wrap up here. I'm going to give you not one, but 2 hot betting tips for the Champions League. Firstly, Milan Girona 1-1. Girona are going to score first. Then Milan will equalize, but ultimately it will end up a stalemate. So 1-1 is where the hot money is at. Speaking of hot money, Bologna Dortmund are going to destroy them 4-0 and show Inter how a proper team deals with minnows like Bologna. And that's it. Let's bring back Esposito. Let's bring back Sebastiano. Let's free Luigi. And Mikko, take us away.
Forza Esposito. See you.
See you next week.
See ya.